Welcome to another edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight. We are here today with Josh Jackson, who is the editor of Paste Magazine. Good afternoon, Josh.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes. So I want to kind of just start with, I've been following Paste for years, and you guys do so much, but talk to me about what is Paste Magazine and what do you guys cover?
So we started out primarily covering music, but pretty quickly morphed into entertainment and culture. So we have a music section, movies, television, video games, books, comedy, and a few years ago we noticed, we were paying a lot of attention to what was going on in the political world, and so we added a politics section, and that's been a fun addition these last 4 or 5 years.
And you guys are based in Atlanta, but you're a national publication. You're not just Atlanta, correct?
Correct. And at the beginning of this year, we had offices in Atlanta and New York because nobody could go to the offices, and we could no longer have bands come in and perform, which was happening at both offices. We are now all virtual. So headquartered in Atlanta. This is, I guess, for the time being, the world headquarters. But yeah, we had a downtown office for the last year, which was really fun being downtown in the city.
Yeah, you had a store, kind of a storefront, so to speak, on Lucky Street. Is that where it was?
Street. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're still there for the time being, but there's nobody, nobody going into the office every day. We're just doing it remote.
Yeah, we'll be back to that later or sooner. We'll be back, and then we'll look back on this, and hopefully it'll seem like a really annoying blip that we're all happy to have gotten past, right?
That's the hope.
So how many years have you been with Paste?
So we started it as a sort of a side project in 1998, and then I quit my job and went, try to do this full time, and have been since 2002. So okay. Yeah, 18 years. This has been my baby, my gig. It's a long time.
That's great. So what kind of work were you doing before you were at Paste?
I was a communications director at a nonprofit. So, still doing reporting and writing and photography and all of that, but for, in the nonprofit world.
So would you say, in terms of the music side of it, is there a certain kind of music that you do or don't cover, or are you kind of across the board?
We're pretty across the board. I mean, there's the music that I love tends to be more of the sort of indie rock, Americana, independent hip hop. It runs the gamut a little bit, but I'm 48 now, and our music editors are a lot younger than I am, and going, when there were concerts, they were going out to concerts every night and keeping up with what's sort of like the next thing coming down the pipe. So yeah, it's a pretty broad range, but we just try to stay on top of what is interesting. Our tagline, Signs of Life in Music, Film, and Culture, and we try to just hit whatever is good and interesting, and whatever that next creative twist on the world of music is.
Do you find as you get older, a lot of other people seem to be getting a lot younger?
Yeah, I mean, our staff is very young, and always, we've constantly brought in new people. We always have interns working for us and turning us on to new things. And yeah, I mean, I think that's the only way for me to really do this, particularly on the music side. On the movie side, on the TV side, it's less of a challenge. But on the music side, I mean, there's always new bands, new folks coming out of college and high school, and just putting together sounds that hadn't been put together before. And it's been fun to just, 18 years, there's always something new, always something to get excited about. So
talk to me about how the music works, because I like to sometimes go on your site and I just put it on one monitor and just let the music stream. And I love it because I hear bands that I don't hear on the radio and that I wouldn't necessarily hear So I figured I kind of had to just kind of get a whole couple of songs going or a whole section going, and then every half hour or so I got to click over to something else. But
That's great.
what are the options? If you go to the site, what are we seeing?
So you can go to our video section, and then you've just got, every band you can imagine performing. A lot of them in our studios in New York and in Atlanta, but also we go on the road and record bands in different places. And yeah, we do these really high quality performances. For a lot of young bands, it's like one of the first really, as far as video goes, really like professionally recorded kind of thing. But then we also will get bands that have been playing for decades and will come in and do a studio session for us. And we've been doing that, gosh, since, for over a dozen years now, and have thousands of performances. I think we just passed something like 300 million views on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Paste Magazine. That's an easy way to do it. We stream on Facebook a lot, so if you follow us there. But yeah, there's just the archives are just so deep. And, when you look at a company, we started out independently, but now we're part of a small company that also owns Wolfgang's Vault, or Wolfgang's, which includes this vault of incredible performances from everybody from the Rolling Stones to Prince to Aretha Franklin, all jazz legends, blues legends, and you can go and find all that stuff on our app as well.
So you could search by artist or by genre,
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of different ways to search for some music.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So obviously the reporting has changed a bit during the pandemic. You were talking about how the in-person recording is not happening at the studios anymore. So have you adapted to that?
Well, for the longest time, I was doing one of these daily Zoom call where I'd talk to a different artist or a couple artists every day, and we do two performances that we'd live stream. That got a little overwhelming doing that daily, but for months, we must have done several dozen shows of the Paste Happiest Hour, and so those are all on our YouTube channel as well. You can see just good conversations and catching up. And for me, it was a great way to just connect with people every day. Every day I had, some artist coming in, whether that was Josh Ritter or, just dozens of folks, Nick Offerman, actors, directors, writers, just different folks every day. And it was just a fun way to kind of round out your day and hear from some folks, and then hear some live music just streaming over Zoom. It wasn't always the greatest quality. That is one thing I feel like we've lost during the pandemic, is I see all these live streams and it's nice to just get to hear kind of these intimate recordings, but I miss having those engineers in our office and getting that sound like it's better than the record. And so those are all still on our site as well. But as far as reporting, we still can call up artists or do a Zoom call with artists and catch up with them that way and hear from them and what they're doing. And for our politics coverage, we've always been more of an analysis site than a reporting site. We're not local to Atlanta, so most of our coverage is U.S. politics. Sometimes goes beyond that, but it is sort of a reaction just to everything that's happening in the world right now. So yeah, there's a lot going on our website, depending on what you're interested in and what sections we've got. Just a lot of great writers writing about the stuff that they're passionate about.
Yeah, you and I think started talking years ago about MomoCon. So we've done a bit of work in kind of the gaming space with MomoCon and with DreamHack, it's another client of ours. And it seems like the gaming side has kind of picked up during the pandemic in terms of, obviously people can do that virtual, comfort of their own wherever, basements or homes or fraternity, residence halls in the case of my kid at Kennesaw. But, there's there's been a great kind of charity component to that with the gaming community. Is there anything in particular that you guys have been seeing in terms of gaming around the country?
Yeah, I mean, it is, it's funny as our different editors will get on a weekly staff call, everybody's got their own challenges of what's going on in their industries, from music not having any live shows, but games is just, it's on fire right now. I mean, like, people have time, they're isolated, and games has been a great thing for a lot of people to kind of latch on to. What I love about our games coverage, and from the very beginning of our game, we were, I think, one of the first sort of general entertainment magazines that really went hard into the world of games, is what games says about our culture. And there's so much being done in gaming to expand what even a game is, what those games can address, the way that they can comment on society. It's no longer just all shoot 'em up and generic war games. There's so much going on in that space.
So that's fascinating. What's an example you kind of how a game kind of addresses kind of what's happening in the world? What's a good example of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's indie games out right now that are dealing with mental health. I'm the wrong person to be able to rattle off the names of these games off the top of my head. I'm not the biggest gamer on our staff. Most of our staff are much bigger gamers than I am. I've got my PS4 that I'll play, I'll pick a game once or twice a year and play through. But other than that, it's mostly, the same, the New York Times crossword on my phone or something. So
I was gonna ask you if you were a gamer and call you on, okay, what's your game? But you answered that question.
Yeah, I mean, I just played through Outer Worlds, was the last big game I played through. So I try to at least have a foot in there because Paste has been a site that's come out of a place of passion for our writers and editors, and I do get excited about some games, but I have not played as much during the pandemic as I think a lot of people. I've spent every moment I can outside, like just either seeing people social distantly on porches or just being out in nature. And I think I've played less games this year than I have in the past, which I know is unusual. I think a lot of people are the opposite right now.
It's good to have that balance, and I think a lot of people are discovering nature a little bit more than they did, because it's for the most part free to go hike or bike somewhere, and there's a lot of places to see, in Georgia and across the country, a lot of places beautiful places where people can go. Somebody just invited me to a Facebook page called like Hidden Georgia or something like that.
Uh-huh.
It's just people posting just beautiful pictures of, places they've hiked or camped or driven to around the state. And I think it may be a fairly new site, but
I just bought a book called Secret Atlanta, and it's got all these little hidden treasures around the city.
Yeah, okay.
I definitely have gotten to know our city a lot more, and just seen a lot more weird, cool places around town than in the past.
Yeah, we camp a lot, so there's a lot of beautiful places around here. So what are some topics that you want to cover that are kind of noodling around in your head that you think, okay, we want to cover this, we want to touch on this in the next couple of months?
That's a good question. I mean, I think for us right now, I think we're doubling down a little bit in these last few weeks of our political coverage. You know, there's so much going on in our various industries that are, you know, it's not just the next movie coming out, but what is happening with movie theaters, and you know how that relates to the economy and to the pandemic and to, you know, the way that we should be operating, or how people can be responsible but also enjoy these things that, I mean, I miss sitting in a theater and watching a big screen. So, you know, we've been doing a lot of sort of addressing the more industry questions around the actual art that we typically cover. This year, I'd say that's happening a lot.
Have you been to a theater lately?
Not since March.
Yep.
Well, before March. I don't know I can't remember the last movie that I saw in the theater, but no, I've not been back to the theater. I have not seen Tenet yet, which I would very much like to see.
I was thinking about going to see Tenet, but then I got mixed reviews from people, and I thought,
yeah.
I was like, okay, do I want to go to a theater when the reviews are kind of mixed about this? But
yeah, you really want to. You kind of have to really want to see the movie to go do that. But you know, I mean, I kind of wish I'd taken advantage of some of the drive-through, you know, old school movies playing in drive-throughs. That right. Sounded fun, but I just never got around to it.
All right, so now this is the hardest question. You ready? So this is the really hard question.
Sure.
What is the coolest thing about you?
Well, I think if I'm answering this month, I just hiked the highest peak in Colorado it was the first time I've done anything like that in my life before. So some friends and I, 3 friends and I rented an RV, drove straight out to Boulder, 26 hours or whatever it was, taking turns driving and sleeping in the RV. And, a couple of them had, done big hikes before, and a couple of us had never done anything close to that before.
So you did that. Was now like 14,000 feet or something? Some of those hills?
Yeah, a little over 14,000 feet. So one of the 14ers in Colorado, and did that, and then did the highest peak in New Mexico as well. And yeah, so I don't know if that makes me cool, but it certainly was a cool thing that I just got to experience. It's beautiful out there, and it was fun to be on vacation. Like, it felt like a safe way to do a vacation. You know, right. we all got tested before we got in the RV, and that was our pod for the week. And it was a great time.
Which place did you hike in New Mexico?
Mount Wheeler. So
Mount Wheeler. Okay.
It was like 13,000 something feet, but it's all new to me. Like getting up that high, climbing up that high. It's just gorgeous.
I have a lot of friends who've done the Philmont Scout Camp in New Mexico. Mm-hmm. There's something called the Teeth of Time, I think it's called, which is like the big hill that a lot of the crews go up. And I'm fine hiking. I love being on water, but hiking up this is not my thing. I don't mind hiking this or this.
That's my normal. Yeah, that's what I would have said 3 weeks ago. I had enough fun that I'd like to do something like that again.
You've got some background in comic books too, don't you?
I don't know if I would say that I have background in comic books. We've done a lot of comic books coverage. I've read my share of comic books, but not as a kid. Comic books were something I discovered late in life, and discovered that they're not just for kids, and there's so much great writing going on in that world that adults can enjoy as well. I did try my hand at I don't know if I'll ever do anything with it, but I started writing a comic book series draft. Like it's just as a fun sort of side thing to do. But and there's one comic book that I was involved with, just on the board of a nonprofit that was like anti-sex trafficking, and we put out a comic book there. So that was the only time I was even ever involved in the publication of a comic book. But yeah, no, we that was a big part of Pace's books and literature coverage. There's just so much cool stuff going on. In fact, when I get off of this call, I'm going over to my parents' basement to buy a birthday present for my daughter's boyfriend, and we'll definitely be buying something for me while I'm there. Some comic books while I'm there.
Yeah, I've got. Still have about 10 boxes in a closet in my basement of comic books from when I was a kid, and I sold off about half of it a couple of years ago, but I kept a lot of the stuff that the Spider-Man and Hulk and Fantastic Four and X-Men stuff that I really liked. And every once in a while some movie comes out and I'm like, got the first issue of that one. Yeah, Black Panther #1.
Wow,
I don't know what it's worth. I don't know what it's worth now, but it's kind of fun to be able to pull that stuff up 40 years later.
Yeah.
I bought a lot of comics until I was in my 30s, and then I felt like they were being a little repetitive. There were some classic storylines that they, major character died like 30 years ago, and then they brought him back and said, "Oh, here's why he's still alive." And I was like, that was kind of a major thing when the Green Goblin died, and bringing him back now just kind of feels like you're cheating me. So, all right. So, a couple of fun questions. So what's the last book that you've read?
So it was one of the books in N.K. Jemison's Broken Earth trilogy. It's a fantasy novel, and she just this past week won the MacArthur Genius Award. So that's cool. I look forward to finishing that series.
Very good. All right, favorite Atlanta restaurant?
I kind of got to go with the cheap options. Taqueria del Sol, the Korean cheesesteak at Fred's. But I've not been going to a lot of restaurants right now. My one exception is just going over to my local, which is Wild Heaven, going sitting on the patio, eating off the food truck there, and seeing friends just right down the street.
I got some to go a couple of weeks ago from Fat Matt's Rib Shack, and hadn't been there in a long time. And
gosh, I haven't been there since there was no other good barbecue in Atlanta. Like for so long, everybody thinks of Atlanta as a barbecue town. We were not for the longest time, and Fat Matt's would be like the place to go to get some good barbecue. Yeah,
we had about 6 or 8 friends of mine, and I ordered to go, and we just spread out in the backyard and chow down on ribs and beans, and it's great. Just love it. All right, favorite guilty pleasure?
I think for guilty pleasure, I've got to go with, I'll watch just about any mediocre sci-fi television that just to give it a chance in hopes that it's going to be the next great Battlestar Galactica thing. And the latest one, I don't know if it may be more than mediocre, but Raised by Wolves on HBO. So strange.
Is it good?
So bizarre. Oh, it's just crazy, but yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's thought provoking and very, very weird.
I've been watching The Boys. Have you watched that one?
I did not make it through the first season. Everybody's saying the season's really great, and I'll probably get back to it, but I have not caught up now.
It's pretty good. Yeah, on the mediocre side, I watched. I think it's called Afterlife. It's Katie Sackley was on Galactica.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I'll watch.
I watch.
Even though it's no good.
I'm watching. I got about 4 episodes in. I'm like, this is the stupidest series I've ever seen. These are the worst trained astronauts ever. But I'm like, okay, I only got 5 episodes left, so maybe it'll get better. Maybe something will happen. And it got to the end. I was like, that was it? Really?
That was not a good show. No,
I was not disappointed.
I watched it.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Favorite local getaway. What do you like? What's a good fun place to go?
I was thinking about this. There's not a lot like overnight stuff, but like just day getaways. Man, Constitution Lakes has been my jam this summer. Just
Ah,
getting in there,
I don't know
going,
that one.
going up
Where's
more.
that?
It is it's south of where I am. It's basically like east of it, Atlanta, towards 285 inside the perimeter. But it's where Dolls Head Trail is. If you've heard of that or
Okay, yeah,
seen
Dawson. Yeah,
seen
I've
pictures.
camped over there, Dawson Trail. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean just going over there and just being out in nature.
All right, I'm gonna have to check that one out. All right, and then favorite non-work hobby. What's a fun thing you like to do
Well,
with
that
the
that
not work?
definitely ties into going to Constitution Lakes because this is brand new in the pandemic, has been birding, going and finding birds of Atlanta, taking pictures. So I got a lens for my wife's camera and have been just hitting every outdoor spot on the weekends and some early mornings just right around here. And I even started a little Instagram and Twitter feed for Birds of Atlanta.
Cool.
And I've been trying to do like a photo of a different species of bird every day, seeing how far I can get. And I today was like day 86, with a different bird that I had like so many of them. I just had no idea they were here in Atlanta. Like
Yeah, I
today,
I, I set up a bird feeder and a hummingbird feeder kind of outside my office. My wife didn't like where I put it because she's like, it's right in the middle. I was like, yeah, but I can see it from my window.
yep,
It's entertainment for me. And a friend of mine over at AP had posted something about he attached a GoPro to the hummingbird feeder, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna try that. So I caught some awesome footage a couple weeks ago of a hummingbird kind of coming in, circling around, and landing on the feeder and feeding. And I was like, man, that's so fast. So I went into my editing software and I slowed it down to like 10%. And so the bird's just kind of coming in. It's fun. It's
that's
the
awesome.
things we
That's
do
how
when
it
we have
started
more
for
time.
me. It was just putting a bird feeder out because I'm working from home now, and I can just look right there, and I was seeing all these birds. And I was like, what are these birds? I don't even know what these birds are. I have no idea. What is that thing that looks like a robin that's hopping on the ground? That's not a robin. It's a towhee. Like so that's how it started, and it just sort of grew from there to yeah. That has definitely been my pandemic hobby. Forget sourdough bread. I'm got my binoculars.
That is a much healthier hobby than sourdough bread. I will tell you. You're not gonna get extra. You get to burn carbs instead of putting them on by crawling around birding. That's awesome. So, is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to mention? Anything about pace that we should talk about? Kind of hit
We're
on it,
here
I think.
we're here in Atlanta. I particularly, we've always been in Decatur, but having that office downtown, I would just say, like it's been so great to have this publication that's nationally focused, and we nominated for National Magazine Awards when we were in print, and all the stuff. It's been so fun to represent Atlanta, and to be an Atlanta company doing this, and the city's been really good to us, and love being here. Love that you do this thing, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I feel like the coverage of Atlanta's music community has kind of ebbed and flowed. I mean, there have been some other weekly papers that have covered music, but they're really not as much. And the AJC kind of does a decent job with one or two reporters trying to keep up with it. But it's a publications like yours that really can dedicate the bandwidth and go more in depth that really look at the industry. And yeah, I just think there's so much happening in the music industry in Atlanta, and there's got to be a lot more next year once things
Yeah,
open
no,
up a bit more.
yeah. I mean, I think about that first concert that I'm going to get to go to, and just how what a catharsis that's going to be. Like I feel like we're all going to enjoy things More. I mean, I went out to JCT Kitchen the other night with some friends. It was like the first time that like we, going out and sitting on a patio. We were on the patio. We were like, still a little nervous to be just out there, but
Yeah.
it was like, oh my God, this is so much fun to be out at a restaurant, eating good food, having good cocktails with friends, and you know, like when we can really do that and don't have to worry about this thing anymore, I think we're gonna all appreciate life just a little bit more.
I hope so. I hope so. All right, we've been talking with Josh Jackson with Paste Magazine. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. And thank you all for joining us for another edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight. Check us out on the leffassociates.com page. There's a link to our archive. You can see the video version, and you can see the audio-only version if you don't want to look at us and just want to listen, or if you're doing it in the car and don't want to have to look while you're driving. And we will be back next week with another edition. Thanks, everybody.